I just picked up the Char-Broil Big Easy True Infrared Oil-less Turkey Fryer. They say that it fries turkeys just as good as a fryer that takes oil, so I'm going to try it out and see. For food that's crispy on the outside, moist and juicy on the inside, with no hot oil to burn, splatter, or spill. So let's get this thing unboxed and see what's in it. So here are all the parts laid out. I know it looks like kind of a lot, but it's really not that much. There is going to be a little assembly required, nothing too major. Primarily just putting on the legs, the knobs, the handles, and the regulator assembly. So first I'm going to install the handles. This package right here contains all the hardware, screws, nuts, and knobs that I'm going to need. So I'm going to grab 4 of these 10 24 by 1/2 inch screws. Alright, so the handles are on. Next I'll be installing the 4 legs using 12 of the 10 24 by 1/2 inch screws and 12 of the nuts. For the legs, you'll find there's 3 holes placed every so often, and that's where I'll insert the legs. Now the legs, according to the diagram, go on the inside, so they sit just behind this outer panel. Now if you have problems with this bar right here not letting the leg get where it needs to be, you can just kind of push it back a little bit. It's not real tight, so you might need to move that. So once I have the holes lined up, I'll place one of the screws through, and I'll put one of the nuts on the back. Now that I have the nuts hand tight, I use my drill, go ahead and tighten them up. So just repeat the process for the additional 3 legs. All right, so I've got all 4 legs on. Next, the instructions say to take the grease tray and slide it on these rails just to make sure that it's going to slide like it's supposed to, so it sits flush and there's no clearance problems. So next I'm going to install the heat shield right here with one of the number 10 by 3/8 inch self-tapping screws. So it goes on like this, and I'm going to put the screw through this top, or actually bottom hole since it's upside down, and screw that in. It says do not tighten it up all the way. And I'm going to use one more of the same screws and put it in this hole, but not tighten it all the way also. I have my final number 10 by 3/8 inch self-tapping screw that I'm going to put right over here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on the control panel, and it looks like this heat shield is just here to protect the igniter that's inside the control panel since it's plastic. I'm going to run these 2 slots behind the 2 screws that I put in just a minute ago. And I'm going to flip this up so it's kind of inside of the control panel. At the same time, I want to align the valve end inside of the burner tube. I'm going to go ahead and slide the slots behind the screws, make sure the valve end is inside of the burner tube properly. My heat shield is in place, so now I can put the final screw in. Next I'll tighten these 2 screws. Now I'll take the ignition wire and I'll slide it onto the end of the igniter. So the only thing left in the accessory pack is the 2 knobs, one of which will be right here and one right here. Although the knobs look very similar, they are a little different. You can see this one right here has this little notch in it, and also on the back of the knobs, one of the holes is larger than the other. So the knob with the smaller hole goes on the top. That's the igniter. And the knob with the smaller hole goes on the bottom with the little directional indicator facing the off sign. And when you put the knob on, it's going to feel like it's not very secure. It actually is pretty secure, but it's designed that way because if you try to turn it to the on position, it doesn't go. You have to push it in and then turn it up to the on position. And this knob is the one that regulates your propane flow and your heat. So now everything is assembled, and here are the main parts of the cooker. You have your base that includes the burner ring and the propane controls, the cooking pot, and the basket. And in addition to those main parts, you have the lid, the drip tray with a pan that they included, the basket hook, and they did include a thermometer, which I thought was pretty nice. The cooking pot will need to be seasoned. It's a pretty straightforward and easy process. It just requires rubbing the inside of it with cooking oil, placing it inside of the cooker, and letting it run for a little while. I am going to go ahead and wash this out because I noticed when I took it out of the box, there's an oily residue in here. So to season the cooking pot, I'm just going to be using some non-stick cooking spray and a paper towel to be sure and coat the inside of it well. So I've got the Big Easy Oil-less turkey fryer hooked up to the bottle, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and make sure it fires up. So it only took a couple clicks and it fired right up. Next, I'm going to place the cooking pot inside and go ahead and let it start seasoning. I've let the Big Easy season for about 25 minutes, and just as the manual said, the interior cooking pot has gotten a really nice dark brown seasoning on it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and there's a few more things I want to show you on it. So the manual recommends only using the lid when it's really cold outside or really windy outside. If you use the lid and it's not windy or cold, it can cause the outside of the turkey to burn before the inside gets thoroughly cooked. They call this true infrared cooking, which when I think of infrared, I think of something maybe like an electronic appliance. But when I read the manual on why they call it infrared, it makes sense. The heat is generated between the cooking pot and the outer chamber. So it's right inside here. And then that heat is going to radiate inside of the cooking pot to do the cooking. So it really does make sense that it's infrared. Another little feature is if your igniter is not working, they have an area where you can place a match right in here to light your burner ring. If you do have to use the lid, obviously it's going to be very hot, so you can use the basket hook to take the lid off. And you can actually hang it right here, and then of course use the basket hook to pick up your basket. Now that I've given the oil-less fryer a little bit of time to cool down, I'm going to go ahead and put one more coat of oil on the cooking pot just to be sure that it's seasoned pretty well, because right in here there's a few spots that didn't really take too well. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get the fryer started. Alright, fired right up. And before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and put in my drip tray with the drip pan. So next I'm going to go ahead and inject my turkey, and I use a homemade marinade, which I'll put a link in the description and also at the end of this video if you want to make your own. A super easy recipe that really helps bring out the flavor of the turkey. I've got my turkey injected, and next I'm just going to spray the surface with some non-stick butter flavored cooking spray. And next I'm going to sprinkle it with All-American Max world famous Cajun seasoning, which I'll also put a link to in the description and at the end of this video. It specifically says don't use seasonings that contain sugar because they can burn, and this seasoning doesn't have any sugar in it. It also says to cook at about 10 minutes per pound. This turkey is exactly at 15 pounds, so it should take about 2.5 hours to cook. Next, I'm going to spray the inside of the cooking basket with the same non-stick spray to help keep any turkey from sticking to it. Alright, now I'm going to place the turkey inside, and this is extremely difficult to do one-handed. I've got the turkey in the basket, and I'm ready to put it on. But just be aware that the turkey may not be as cooperative as you think it should be when you're trying to place it in the basket with the legs slightly spread. To be honest, between two of us, that was the best that we could do it. It just did not want to stand up like was shown in the instructions. The fire has been going about 15 minutes since I put the last coating of oil on the cooking pot. So I'm going to put the turkey in. And now we can really test this thing out and see how well it cooks. I will not be using the lid because it's about 65 to 70 degrees right now. There's hardly any wind, so I don't want the outside to burn. I'm going to leave this to cook for about 2 hours, and then I'll come back and I'll check the internal temperature. I don't think it'll be ready by then, but at least I'll have a pretty good idea about how fast it cooks. So it's been 2 hours and 5 minutes, and here's what the turkey looks like. According to this, not even 140 degrees. I was originally estimating about 2.5 hours cooking time, and it's been 2 hours and 35 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull it again and check the temperature. Now I gotta say, it's a beautiful, beautiful turkey. And it looks very on par with frying one in oil. Let me try this one again in some of those same areas. So it's reading right at 165. So I think it's time to go ahead and pull this turkey off. So I brought the turkey in to look at it, and look, it just looks absolutely beautiful. I fried turkeys before, and it looks very much like the fried turkeys that I cooked. So I'm going to let this rest for just a little while, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to go ahead and clean the fryer out. First, I'm going to take out the drippings. Now, of course, you can use these for gravy or something like that. I'm not going to be doing that here, so I'm just going to be throwing them away. But none of the drippings ended up in the drip pan, so I really like that. Really, there's only a couple drops of the drippings that hit the bottom of the Big Easy fryer, so it did a pretty good job of containing those. So now I'm going to spray out the cooking pot just to get any big chunks of anything like that out first, and then I'm going to wash it good. I didn't really see anything in the manual, and I may have just missed this, but I didn't see anything about washing it out or anything like that. You know, the turkey is never really going to touch the cooking pot. It's always going to be in the basket. So I don't know if you have to wash it, but I'm definitely going to wash it after each use. It just seems like a good idea. So I'm just going to wash it out here with some dishwashing liquid. And I was kind of disappointed that some of that dark brown seasoning came off the bottom of the pot during washing. But, you know, it is what it is, and I seriously doubt that's going to affect the performance. But I found it odd that it came off the bottom and not the sides. And I'm not sure if the cooking oil helped the turkey not stick to the basket or not, but the basket cleaned up pretty easy. You just have to be meticulous in getting all the little nooks and crannies there. But it cleaned up pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and crank up the fryer one more time because I'm going to put one more coat of seasoning on the Big Easy. The instruction manual says to just put a light coat of oil on it after use, but I figure it's not going to hurt to go ahead and just get it seasoned as well as possible in the beginning, so then I don't really have to worry about it each time that I go to use it. So I let it sit about 15 minutes, and it's gotten even darker, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off and head back in. To get the turkey out, I guess the easiest way is just to turn the basket upside down, but the wings and the legs tend to be very uncooperative with getting it out of the basket. I mean, it's not a real hassle. It's just, you just kind of have to finagle those wings and legs out of the way. Now this part of the leg here, it was kind of stuck into the basket, and this was a 15-pound turkey, and the maximum size is 16 pounds. So it fit in there pretty snugly, but I want to go ahead and cut into this and see just how this meat looks. Sorry for the focusing problem here. The camera was focusing on my hand rather than the turkey. But the meat's looking really, really good. I mean, it looks pretty juicy. The skin looks good. So far, from just the looks of it, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a really good turkey. The meat is not dry at all. And you can see the seasoning here from the marinade that I put in. And the deeper I cut, you see even more of the marinade that's deep into the meat coming out. You can see right here as I poke it, you still got marinade coming out. So the turkey held its juices really, really well. See, this looks good. This looks really good. I can't wait to taste it and see just if it's really going to be as good as it looks or not. So I got to tell you, I'm really happy with the way the Big Easy cooks turkeys. The taste is phenomenal. The skin, I wish there was more skin on the turkey. It's to die for. If you've ever had traditionally fried turkey in oil, the skin is very much like that skin, but it's actually better because it's not quite so dry. But as an overall, this turkey was great, and I don't regret this purchase at all. The Big Easy has had time to cool down, so I'm going to head back outside and go ahead and get it covered up. First, I'm going to put the lid on and move the propane tank over, and then I'm going to put my cover on. I'm actually glad that I didn't buy the cover made for the Big Easy, because this way I can fit both the propane bottle and the Big Easy under the same cover. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I got this at Lowe's for like $15. I hope you found this video informative, and if you liked it, I hope you give it a thumbs up and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.